Today, all over the world, there are thousands of Sino-Soviet intelligence agents with money to burn, looking for unsuspecting targets for exploitation among members of our forces.
Well,
Yeah.
cool.
It's good.
Do you want to talk Suicide Squad?
Yeah. Let's break it down. Just like we can. I mean, like I said, it's just going to be like a pretty. We can just do casual discussion. Or we can do like, because I think discussions are probably more helpful than reviews. To be honest, like we can just tell our thoughts about the movie, and then we can kind of like. I mean, I don't really care. Like I've never been super into like people not spoiling something for me. So I think we can just talk spoiler free.
Spoilers, yeah.
Full spoilers about it, and then we can talk about like I don't know if you came up with a topic or not. Then we can come up with a topic, or whatever. We can just talk about anything. To be honest.
Yeah. Well, yeah. We can talk about Suicide Squad first. We could just go ahead and knock that out.
But by the way, we're just gonna go since we're already recording. We're just gonna keep everything in. I'm Matt, and that is Austin. So Matinee is the name of the pod.
Yeah, which I actually really like. And what's funny is I kind of just thought about that, and like I was like, we used to just whenever we'd go see these movies, like we would go either to a matinee like first thing in the morning. Which is that still considered a matinee? I guess it's still considered a matinee. Like if you go really early to those shows, because I think after 5 is not considered a matinee. I think that's still the rules.
I think so. Yeah.
But then I was like matinee, and I was like that actually. So Matt's name is in that, and then like the first letter of my name's in that. I was like that actually kind of fucking works. So that's a cool name. And but we didn't really. Well, at least I didn't. So like I didn't see a Suicide Squad matinee. I actually sat my ass at home and watched it on HBO. Is that what you did?
Because why wouldn't you, dude? That's the point. Like it's free, bro. Like if you have HBO Max, it's fucking free. So.
Which is the most atrocious app, like across the whole board when it comes to streaming services. Like it's just an absolutely, it's like the shittiest app, at least that I use. I mean, like I think user friendly. I definitely think Netflix has the best, or the least frustrating, I guess, search when you're just looking for content. But God, HBO Max sucks. Like we were trying to pause it and go back. And I just remember like the whole app just crashed while we were trying to rewind the movie. And so we were just like, oh God. So, or maybe it's just our TV. I don't know. Our TV's been acting weird, but I definitely think that the app's atrocious. But yeah, it's a new era we're in because now it just seems like probably for at least the next year or so, maybe probably a little bit longer. I think everything's going to go straight to this, straight to our television, which I thought I'd never see the day, but I guess it was inevitable.
Yeah, so let's actually that's a pretty good topic. We can talk about that at the end. What's so tell me your thoughts on the movie.
So right away, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that I think James Gunn it's a typical like James Gunn playground movie. He got to really get his hands on some more comic book characters, more famously known for doing Guardians 1 and 2, and I think he's now doing 3, Guardians of the Galaxy, and which I like going back and revisiting those. I think they're fucking like great. I think they're like top tier of the MCU. After going back and watching those, it took me around to come around the second one, but I rewatched back in April or so when we were going back and just when it was. Oh no, this was like maybe this was earlier at the end of last year because we were in Mexico was actually still in lockdown for a lot longer than the rest of the country, and so we were so bored at the end of last year around Christmas, and so we just watched a shit ton of movies, and that's when I went back and watched all of those. But anyway, yeah, it really does have like the heart and soul of a James Gunn movie, and I think it's definitely one of its bigger strengths. Also think James Gunn casted this movie really fucking well. You know, like I think Idris Elba and John Cena were like the best additions, and then Sylvester Stallone's King Shark were, I think, probably the best additions, and I couldn't remember who played Ratcatcher too. I couldn't remember what her name was.
Oh, so she's like a Portuguese actress. She's not even in anything. She's in like Portuguese
Oh,
language stuff. Yeah.
okay, that's probably why I didn't recognize her. But yeah, I think the biggest strength of the movie is the fact that it feels just like like you would expect a James Gunn movie would.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of people just thought of how outrageous it was, and like to
Hmm.
me, I don't know what I was expecting, but like just watching it, I was like, that wasn't like any more outrageous than like Deadpool was or something. Like
Yeah.
I guess I was just expecting the most like unconventional, just like unnecessarily violent movie. I mean, it was pretty violent, but like I don't know. I guess going into it and hearing about all of the media buzz, I was thinking it was going to be way more violent than it was, and so uh, I guess for a superhero movie and for the standards that Disney's Marvel set, yeah, it is extremely violent. But I guess with my own interpretation and the buzz about it, the early reviews I just remember seeing were like, it's just like completely, it's the most like unfiltered superhero movie ever. Then I'm like, I think they just say that about a lot of like rated R movies now, because
Yeah.
it just kind of, when it comes to the outrageousness, it didn't have me like say, oh, like, damn, I can't believe they'd go that far. But I mean, the guys really did just, throughout most of the movie are just like, if anything, the most violence in the movie is just how they kill people, and how those people died is pretty rough, and they don't kind of hide away or from that at all. But um, so I didn't think it was like that outrageous, and so I think unfiltered is kind of a bit of a stretch. But all in all, I think it's, the biggest takeaway for me is that its success is that it's a James Gunn movie, and they just kind of let him run wild with it. And um, it definitely doesn't. He doesn't have the budget that he did with Marvel, so you can tell that like a lot of the set design wasn't as great. You could tell it was kind of just shot in small areas throughout the whole movie.
Hmm.
Um, but you're dependent upon which a lot of like even in Guardians, like it's as pretty as Guardians is, like the heart of the movie is it's a story between the characters and the relationships that they carry and how they grow and interact with each other. And it's just like that in Suicide Squad. So
So
the
do you
James Gunn formula works.
do you remember when the first one came out? If it's like there's kind of this debate between whether or not this one's like a reboot or like
Mhm.
a actual sequel, because it's like, is it in the same universe? As the like Man of Steel people, like with the original Suicide Squad, because like Harley's the same, and then Captain Boomerang's in it. So I mean Rick Flag, of course, and Amanda
Right.
Waller. So they're all the same like actors and characters and stuff. But there's this like, is it set within the same thing? Because like there's a part in it where in the trailer, like Amanda Waller's talking to Idris Elba's character that I can't remember his name. He's like the gun guy, and he was in jail for putting Superman in the hospital with like a kryptonite bullet, which like we haven't seen, but
Mhm.
it's like a thing that could feasibly happen. Um, but so there's like this thought, like, oh, is it in the same vein? But you remember in the first one, a lot of the criticism was that it was supposed to be like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they had the music in the trailers and everything, and they were trying to be Guardians of the Galaxy, but the
Oh,
problem was like
extremely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the problem was like they didn't have James Gunn, who like was able to take these misfit characters and kind of turn them like
Mhm.
kind of make you care for them.
Mhm.
So like in the first one, they introduced all the characters, and some of the characters have backstory and whatever. One thing that I liked about it though is that like in this movie, all the characters have like good backstories. Like you could see, like you actually care about them. So like in
Oh
the
yeah, for
original
sure.
one, the one guy who dies is the
Slipknot.
climbing guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
Slipknot,
yeah, yeah.
and he's the one guy that dies. And
Mhm.
the rest of the characters, like you don't really care if they live or die. Like obviously, you kind of like, I guess Margot Robbie's like Harley Quinn's pretty good in the first one, and the rest of them you're like, I don't really care what happens because I'm not invested in them. Like they're all like
Yeah.
interchangeable, just like bad guys, and then
Yeah,
this one, like each one's
it's like the pacing of it is so weird. It's like, okay, here's a little bit of character, now let's move the story a bit along, and then it's like here's a little bit of character, and you're just like at one point the first one just feels like, okay, like they definitely didn't care about the story at all here, or like
Mhm.
they didn't care about like moving forward anything. So yeah, it just really became like, I think the best way we described it when you and I watched it was like it basically just feels like an extended like music video with DC characters.
Mhm.
That's kind of what it feels like. But yeah, it's like the first one, and it's funny now because um, David Ayer directed the first one, and David Ayer was known for like fucking Training Day and Fury and some other shit. Some pretty like, so he's got a pretty good filmography. He's got some pretty good works behind him. But when he did Suicide Squad, you could just tell it was like something wasn't right here. And he's still active on Twitter, basically still coming out, and he's always saying like, the Suicide Squad, like here's your monthly reminder that the Suicide Squad movie you saw wasn't like anything remotely what my vision was. And he was like, it was extremely doctored by the producers at Warner Brothers and shit like that. And so he's trying to make he's trying to get the same reaction that Zack Snyder had. Zack Snyder literally got to redo his whole fucking movie, and I think David Ayer is being a little petty about it. He's like, I think I want to do my own movie too, and just
Yeah.
nobody fucking cares. It's so
Right.
funny.
Also, like one of the things is like you have a good movie, like a pretty entertaining movie that comes out. That's the Suicide Squad, right? James Gunn directs it, and it's the Suicide Squad. And it's good, so there's no way that like DC's gonna spend money on re-releasing Homie's cut, because no one cares about that, because like that movie's just out of the cultural zeitgeist. So yeah, I think one of the best things about the movie, though, in those regards, is that the characters, like, no one, I mean, the Suicide Squad's kind of like this interesting thing, like even in the comics, because they're characters that like no one gives like anything about, they don't care about,
Right.
and then except for like Harley Quinn, I guess. But
yeah, Harley Quinn's a big property for them now. I think they I mean, she got her own movie, for crying out loud, like last year, right? Birds of Prey. I think it came out like right before COVID.
Yeah, the one that I saw, like I saw it not in theaters. I saw it like on. I think we watched it one day on streaming like a while ago, and we were like, "Oh, this movie's out,"
Right.
I didn't even realize it came out. Like that's how tuned out of it I was. But yeah. But yeah, so like the characters that like you don't know or care about, like Redcatcher 2 and like King Shark and Polka Dot Man and all these people, like you actually like care about what happens to them. And then I think the opening scene too, I think like just kind of totally all the cards on the table in the beginning of the discussion, I think that it's probably the best DC movie that I've seen.
I think it probably, I'm still I actually still like the first Wonder Woman. Okay, like I don't think it's that bad. I didn't think it was bad as, like, I thought 1984 may have been the worst one, to be honest. Well, I guess, well,
that, I mean, or BVS, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say the theatrical cut of BVS was so bad too. I mean, I think that's bottom tier, and then like you have Suicide Squad and like 1984 and BVS are like down there. And then like with in the original cut of Justice League. And then, like, for me, the best of the best, like, is Suicide Squad, Man of Steel, and I haven't seen Birds of Prey, so I can't say that one. And then I guess the Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League, which it's really fucking long, but like there's still some actual redeeming stuff about it. Like I actually really liked Superman and the re-release of Justice League. I mean, I finally got around to watching that, and I mean, I guess just adding a little bit of adding the dark side element to it, and the extra footage, and adding a lot more to Cyborg, it actually did kind of change up the movie a lot.
And the ending is completely different too.
Right.
So that's something
Yeah, that's definitely top. That's probably my top three, and then my bottom three, and I guess somewhere in the middle is like Batman versus Superman and um, whatever
Aquaman
else.
and Shazam.
Aquaman, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
I
yeah, I
think
forgot
that
about Shazam. Shazam was pretty good.
yeah, Shazam was all right. But yeah, I mean, I think that Suicide Squad's definitely like
Mm-hmm.
my favorite so far. This one.
And what's crazy about it is like I think it's the lowest budgeted DC movie. Like, well, no, I think Shazam was pretty low budget too, but like Suicide Squad was really low budget, and it was the set pieces were like a lot more contained than like Justice League, and the scope of it was so much smaller, but it still feels big because of the cast and all of the moving pieces at once. But like you could just tell like it's such a different type of film compared to like what most people think of when they thought of the DC movies. Like even Aquaman, which was just centered around Jason Momoa and Ocean Master, like it felt huge in scope and like it was just pure CGI fest. And like even Suicide Squad, which feels a lot lower budget and a little more intimate,
I
is way
think
better.
Yeah, I think also like there is, to completely spoil it, there's that ending, which is where the Starro, right, comes out and he's like destroying the city and shit, and they have to fight the giant like monster at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a different than most of those types of movies because the giant monster is not like a big gray hulking blue lightning cloud in the sky.
Right.
And also like it gives a good payoff for like the recurring joke throughout the entire movie, which my favorite joke in the movie, which was why did that guy give Harley Quinn his javelin?
yeah, I have no idea. And then she's like,
that was my favorite joke set up, and it's throughout the entire movie. They're like, "Why do you have a javelin?" She's like, "I don't know."
She's like, "I'm still waiting."
Yeah, I'm waiting for God to tell me. He's just like, "Oh Jesus." He goes, "Yeah, him too, or any of them, really."
Yeah.
And then she realizes why she has it, which is to stab Star in the eye or whatever.
Yeah. That was actually the Starro fight was pretty cool. Like I thought Idris Elba character was what's his name? Was it Death something? Or like another, or am I thinking of Deathstroke or Deadpool? I'm getting those vibes.
Yeah.
What was his name?
It's weird because like that guy definitely, like, tell me if I'm wrong, Austin, but that guy was definitely supposed to be Will Smith's Deadshot.
Yeah, he absolutely was.
Right?
Yeah,
was that the only person that thought that? Because like he's like the assassin that's like a sharpshooter guy who's like the leader of the team, whose daughter is in trouble, right? And his whole motivation is he's like an assassin, but he's actually like a good guy, So
yeah, well, I mean, it straight up is because, well, listen, his daughter. So Will Smith's Deadshot, the big character thing for him was that he has a daughter to take care of, and that's literally just what Idris Elba's character is. I'm looking up his name, the name of that character in a second. Yeah, John Cena was Peacemaker though. That was really fucking cool. I think he's actually getting his own. His name was Bloodsport. That's who the Idris Elba character was. Bloodsport.
I like the Peacemaker joke where he's just like, and it's in the trailers too, where he's just like, I believe in peace with all my heart. I don't care how many men, women, or children I have to kill to get it.
Right. But yeah, I like the fact that he's just like the opposite of how John Cena really is, which is like John Cena is supposed to be like the nicest fucking guy like ever, and he's just like a raging prick throughout the whole movie. And like his banter with Idris when they get to the rebel camp, and, which they don't know is the rebel camp, so they just like slaughter the whole platoon.
Yeah, that one's good. That's a good joke. I like that joke, and also the joke when she's like everybody on this team was picked for their special abilities, and then she tells Bloodsport that Peacemaker's ability. She's like, he was an assassin that was trained from birth by his father or whatever. And I'm just like, and he goes, wait a minute, are you fucking kidding me? Like, that's my backstory.
Yeah, pretty much. And they have that awkward exchange in the prison. Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute, are you trying to insult me? Like, that's mine.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. And also, I really liked I liked Ratcatcher too. I thought she was probably like besides my favorite character is always going to be King Shark, but in a Suicide Squad property. But like Ratcatcher 2 is probably my favorite character besides King Shark because she's like not really a villain, like she talks about how she robbed a bank with the rats, and they said that the rats were like a deadly weapon, so they locked her in like Belle Rev because she's like a super villain technically because she has super villain powers, but she didn't hurt anybody. She was just like stealing money with rats.
And leave it to James Gunn to be like, actually, this character is going to end up saving the entire fucking world. So like, and honestly, like it's a really unique. It's basically like I don't know which came first, Squirrel Girl or Ratcatcher, but she's basically Squirrel Girl, with rats at her disposal. And I guess if you think about it, like rats probably do overpopulate this planet like crazy. So if she has the ability to connect with like a mass population of rats, like that instantly, it doesn't make her probably cool, but it instantly makes her way more dangerous than she needs to be.
Yeah, her and King Shark were the only two people that I was worried about dying in this movie. Like the rest of them could have died, but like when she was at the end, when she like, she's just like, why don't you just take this and like go and like leave me alone, because she's like a younger and John Cena's like, fuck it, I'm still gonna kill you. I was like, oh fuck, I hope he doesn't kill her.
Yeah, and what's neat, and this is why it's
which is rare for a DC movie, like all the people can die in DC movies. I don't really.
Yeah. And what that exchange with Ratcatcher and Peacemaker, where he's, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it turns out he was like designated to make sure the files don't ever get like taken, because like he was ordered to actually keep them as confidential as possible. So like he's got to put his life on the line to make sure that nobody knows about those fucking files and the U.S. involvement in the project, right? And so that's why he turns on them, right? Essentially. So and then he's about to kill Ratcatcher, and then like it does that time jump thing. It does it a few times in the movie where it's like, okay, here's what's happening, but here's what happened a few minutes ago to help you get caught up. And it shows the Idris Elba fight, and it shows him like crashing through the building, and then like he just happens to come down right as John Cena's about to kill her, and so he crashes down, and then like what it immediately goes to is the conversation they had at the earlier part of the movie where they were talking about their bullets. And so they both fire at each other. And it's the only reason this moment's even cool is because they previously had a conversation about who had cooler bullets.
Yeah.
And Idris was like, it doesn't fucking matter if you can have the smallest bullet possible with the highest velocity, like that's ultimately going to be a cooler, or that's ultimately going to bring you a higher result because it brings more precision. And if you're really fucking precise, you need small bullets anyway, so because it doesn't fucking matter. And then John Cena's like, yeah, well, I have hollow point bullets that just basically explode on contact. And so they shoot literally like dead shot, pun intended. They like dead center, dead shot right at each other's like between the eyes. And the bullets are dramatically approaching each other. And you're like, what the fuck's going to happen? And then it turns out the smaller bullet that Idris fires ultimately wins because it goes through Peacemaker's hollow point. And like, it's basically, it's a play, and it ties in the original conversation that the first two had. So it kind of like, it's circular storytelling that we all, know, and satisfyingly, when circular storytelling comes around, you're just like, oh, okay, now that feels like closure, and it feels like you're tying up a loose end there, or you're tying up something from the earliest point in the movie. And James Gunn does that in Guardians also, but that was a really cool exchange. I think that may have been one of my favorite moments of the movie. Is just when I don't know, but I remember watching those bullets going at each other. Like, oh shit! Like one of them is just going to go slightly off, and like he's going to kill the other one. And, honestly, I thought Peacemaker was going to kill Bloodsport. Like I thought they were going to kill off Bloodsport. Because I knew going in, I knew that Peacemaker had a series, so I was like, well, Peacemaker's got to live because apparently, which spoiler he does apparently. So I knew Peacemaker had a series because I'd seen that it had gotten greenlit already going into the movie, and so I was like, Peacemaker can't die, and then so you see him die quotation marks, and then the in credit scene is Peacemaker waking up in the hospital to because apparently they need him to save the world or something, and that's going to tie into the Peacemaker series. But yeah, I think my favorite part about it, one of my favorite parts was Peacemaker and Bloodsport, and that whole exchange was really fucking cool.
What do you think of the beginning part? Since we talked a little bit about the ending, what do you think of the beginning part where it's the one team that they form? They take like 5 seconds to form them, and that team's actually a distraction for the real team.
Yeah, that was neat. I knew something was up though, right? Because like the team didn't have Peacemaker and the team didn't have Bloodsport, and so I'm like, I mean, if you've seen any of the promotional materials, like the rest of the team that's here now with Nathan Fillion and Jai Courtney and Michael Rooker's characters, they I knew something was going to go down. I'm like, are they just all about to die? Because the rest of the cast, like half the cast hasn't shown up yet. We're already like 10 minutes into the movie, or maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then when they just get on the beach and they start open firing, and what's his name, Pete Davidson's character, like it turns out he's like a snitch. I was like, oh shit, they're literally just about to kill them all. So like it clicked pretty quickly, but like I think I didn't expect it, but at the same time, like there's what's cool about the opening is like there's a sense of mystery, and so you're still not sure what's going to go down because they're being dropped on like an island, and you're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And I guess that's as a director, you kind of want that suspense early on in the movie because you still want to be able to, you want to have your audience thinking. And I'm definitely thinking, I'm like, so like, are they like, this is it? Like, this is the movie just literally just goes, and then they're all on this island for the rest of the movie. And I'm like, I mean, it kind of is how it went, but it just doesn't go like that. But yeah, I ended up like laughing my ass off with just the absolute slaughter of that first team, and and Michael Rooker's character like screaming and running away, like she detonates his head, and then Captain Boomerang just getting like cut in half by the helicopter blades.
Yeah, I love the beginning where like the Weasel or whatever guy, the Weasel, he dies, and like he's dead.
He just fucking fell in the water.
He just drowned. He couldn't swim. So I like that a lot. I like that joke. And they were like, did someone not check to see if he could swim? And then he's like, I like when he's like, am I sitting next to a fucking werewolf? And he's like, oh my god, fucking werewolf. He says, he's just like, no, it's not werewolf.
No, he's just a weasel, yeah.
And he's like, that's Weasel, he's harmless. He goes, well, he's not harmless. He killed 27 children, so. I thought that was pretty funny. The Weasel guy was funny. But yeah, I thought it was interesting. I was shocked that they killed everybody on that initial team besides Harley and Rick Flag, I was pretty shocked that they killed everybody. Because especially like Captain Boomerang, like that one was kind of
well, he was like an A+ player, or he was the 18 player in the first movie, so I didn't expect it at all.
Yeah, so I thought they'd keep Captain Boomerang and Harley maybe, but then they like everyone else died. Which like I was kind of shocked to see. But as soon as they started dying, I was like, everyone's gonna die on that team.
Well, what's neat about it is that it's like you have to, like, I mean, it's fucking called the Suicide Squad, right? Like people need to die, and right away, like it's like James Gunn basically saying, like, yeah, I mean, it's called a Suicide Squad for a reason. Like this is an insanely difficult task, and like these people have been brought in. These people have been rounded up by these supervillains, have been rounded up by the government, and just like, these people are disposable. We can use them to do really. They've got weird powers, and if we ever need weird powers for like a supernatural mission, we can do that. And so people need to die, especially if it's a really strange operation. And I think James Gunn is smart enough to say, like, hey, like this movie needs to be bloody, and people need to die in it, and like right away, that's what you get. Because revisiting the first movie, I'm just thinking about it in my head. Nobody dies until maybe like 45 minutes into the movie, because the movie spends like almost the first hour just setting up all of your characters, and then and setting up a lot of backstory and shit.
The first guy that dies, whose head gets blown up, is the guy who's the only guy who doesn't get an intro song. And
yeah, exactly. And he's the only one that gets blown up. Like, I'm pretty sure. Killer Croc doesn't die. At least thinking back, he doesn't die. Deadshot doesn't die.
The only one that dies besides him is the Diablo guy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Mexican dude.
He gets exploded.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he does it as a sacrifice at the end of the movie or something, right?
Yeah, and right. In this one, like a bunch of people, obviously like the entirety of the what you call it? The people in the original the beginning of this movie, everyone dies except for Harley and Rick Flag, and then later on people die too. Like Rick Flag dies, which is pretty shocking, I guess. Let's see, Rick Flag dies, then who else? The polka dot guy dies. Polka dot man dies.
That's right. Yeah, he just gets crushed.
I feel like there's another person that dies. I don't remember who else dies. I know King Shark lives. I was pretty sure that he was going to die. I'm glad he lived.
I was about to say Amanda Waller, but they just knocked her out.
Yeah, they just knocked her out. Harley lives. Ratcatcher lives, and then Bloodsport lives. Is that the entire team?
Yeah, that's pretty much all the important characters.
So Polka Dot Man's the only one that dies?
Yeah. And I guess it's supposed to be like...
Besides Peacemaker. You're supposed to think Peacemaker dies.
And
then Rick Flag, I guess. He's not really... he's an army guy, so...
Did you like Polka... I can never remember that actor's name because he's so much shit. But like...
Crazy Man from The Dark Knight.
Yeah, and he was in... Ant-Man and the Wasp. He was like that Russian dude or whatever in Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
He was in the heist. He was in the heist crew.
He's in a lot of shit. Yeah, he's the Russian guy.
But yeah, it's cool to see him. It's cool to see him get work and get him to.
I liked his thing where everyone's his mom. Like I like
his trauma. Yeah,
I like the club scene where everyone's mom dancing around him, like grinding up on him and shit.
Well, it implies it because he sees the stripper and he's like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
You don't see it, but it's implied. It's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and then you see everybody is like his mom to him, like even Starro.
That was I thought that was a really neat joke, and it's definitely a heavy one, and it's kind of dark, but it definitely doesn't. It has nothing to do with his superpowers either. Like his superpowers were just I have like a condition, and then like a condition, he's like, yeah, like these things are just like they just grow on me. It's like an infection, and he's like, I just kind of like you see him run over to the bushes, and he just pukes them all out. Like that shit,
explodes them out. Yeah, I like how he's like the most powerful one on the team, besides like maybe Ratcatcher, because his like fucking polka dots dissolve shit.
Yeah, and so like his final moments, which are really heroic but also really sad, is like he sees his massive mother he sees Starro as his massive mother, like a giant version of his mom, and then he just like releases all of his polka dots and like just shreds off like her right leg, and it's like bloody and violent. And then the Starro just kind of stumbles on one leg, and then he just lifts up his other leg and just crushes him. It's like, or no, I guess he smashes him with his arm or something like that. And he's like, I'm a fucking superhero. And it just like, and he's dead like instantly.
Yeah. Like, he literally turns into like pulp. Like it's like,
yeah, pretty much.
He turns him into liquid. What did you think of my boy King Shark in the movie?
I didn't actually. I didn't know it was Sylvester Stallone until the credits rolled. And
I had no clue. I still didn't know.
Yeah. It was like I was watching it, and I just kind of went with it, and I went in with as much info about it as possible. And then when the credits are rolling, it's like Sylvester Stallone as King Shark. I was like, holy shit! And but yeah, no, I thought it was fucking hilarious. He's kind of like me and Diana were watching it, and I'm like, he kind of reminds me of Patrick Star from SpongeBob. Like he has a good heart, but he's just insanely stupid.
Yeah,
and he's practically invincible and just like can take a beating. So
yeah,
I was waiting for him. I was waiting for him to just have his like ultimate like bloody like carnage moment. And I guess he kind of gets that at the end.
He doesn't really he doesn't really contribute that much a lot of the time. He like eats a guy one time. He like rips a guy in half in the rain. It's like from the trailer too. And then like at the end he's just like, yo, King Shark, that's Nami, and he's like, oh, starfish Nami, and he jumps on him and starts biting him a little bit.
Oh,
he doesn't really do much though.
Yeah,
I do like
he's invincible, right? Because he's a demigod.
I do like when he's fixing to eat Ratcatcher, and then Bloodsport just starts shooting the fuck out of him, and he like, you know, it's not like killing him, but it's like hurting him enough to where he's like, laying on the ground, like, please stop. Like that, I felt sad when his friends or whatever started biting him, and then he falls out he falls out the window, and like he falls out the window, and I thought the thing was gonna fall on him. And then everyone starts shooting at him, and he's like, he curls up in a little ball, like, please stop shooting at me. I was like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it is sad, and I think that's kind of the point. Is like each character has each character you have like a heartfelt moment with, and you're supposed to connect with them. And so like King Shark has that moment finally with like people that he thinks like want to be around him, and then like you're like, hey, like he's got somebody that actually like voluntarily like wants to be his friend, and then they end up just inviting him anyway. Fuck that. Like, I guess never mind.
Yeah.
But yeah, like most of the movies like that. It's
I did like that they help him out though. Like, Harley Quinn runs over and was like pulling him off of him and stuff. I was like, that's cute. Like they're like, oh, he's our like dumb friend. We need to help him.
Yeah, it goes back to like his first like you said, he tries to eat Ratcatcher. And like she's asleep the whole time, and like part of that joke is like Bloodsport's like, so you were just gonna fucking stay asleep the whole time, like you didn't even know a giant shark was like about to like chomp you in half.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, no, I had no idea. And then she's not even mad about it. She's like, damn, are you okay, buddy? And it's like she actually tries to connect with him, and that's basically like the first, I guess, what sets up his story is that I think she's the first person to like approach him and like see him as like not just this freaky giant shark, you know. And that's why it's heartfelt in that sense.
Yeah,
but yeah, King Shark was fucking cool, and I thought the funny they sprinkled him in when like you needed like something really dumb to happen, you know, like to break the serious tone for a bit, like, you know, when they're having their breakdown from Waller, and then, you know, Peacemaker's like, starfish is a slang term for butthole. He's like, is that any relation to Star? And then she's like, no. And then she's like, what? I can remember what his name was, like Namu or something like that.
Yeah.
King Shark raises his hand, and he's just like, hand. It's
hand.
like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, Nanu, that's your hand. That's correct. Yeah, I like that a lot. The whole movie I felt like was just a lot of fun. I think that was something that like DC was kind of missing, you know? It was really funny. And,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I think that DC kind of misses that a lot. So like I don't know, like, you know, you and I talk about it all the time. Like, I'm of two opinions with comic book movies. Like, because I'm always been a comic book fan. I really like superheroes and stuff. But my opinion of comic book movies is like Martin Scorsese's right in the sense that comic book movies are supposed to be like roller coasters. Like, they're not fine art. Like, they're not films. There's not cinema, just movies.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So I think as far as like comic book movies go, and even as far as like just entertaining action movies, like it was a good movie. I think I think it gets the Matt seal of approval as best DC movie, but also I think it's because it's on HBO Max. Like, if people have HBO Max, there's no reason not to watch it on there. So,
and I guess we could. I'll say that I liked it too, and I would recommend it to anyone. And what's great about it is
the action too. Like, the action is really good. I like Bloodsport. Bloodsport probably gets the most play, and I like his little changing guns and shit.
Yeah, like just it's got some really good heart. You know, I think it checks all the boxes for just like a good popcorn flick. I mean, like usually is like you would think that like these studios would just have it like down to where like it's just like it's so easy that they should be able to do it in their sleep. Like all you have to do with these comic book movies is just check some boxes and like make sure like you have elements, like you have your stakes, you have your action, you have your comedy, and you have some heartfelt moments, and you have some, it's some humanity in them. You could just literally check those boxes with something, and you actually get a pretty decent movie out of it. That's all you have to do for these things. And you would think they would be a lot better about making them by now, but like they've been making these things for like 20 years, and like they're still aren't always good.
Yeah.
It just goes to show you.
The amount of volume that these movies produce too, I think is you're bound to have some stinkers in there.
It's an assembly line. Yeah, you're bound to have some bad ones.
So
shit, I would say like Suicide Squad is probably one of the first good comic book movies, I guess, since probably Avengers, like the last Avengers movies. Because since then, like we haven't had a lot of good like good, maybe like entertaining of the genre, I would say, since probably the end of that first MCU run, right? I would say so, because I didn't like Spider-Man Far From Home. Like I thought it was terrible.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that. Okay, so I guess we're both recommending it though. We can. I'm fixing to actually have to leave because I gotta go to the gym, but
sure.
I think. What do you want to talk about next week?
So next week we can kind of, if we're not going to watch a movie, we can kind of just talk about what our favorite movies are, and because I do kind of just want to have an episode like where we just like absolutely tear into like why our movies are our favorite movies, and just basically break down like why it's an important movie, why it's a movie that connects with us, and we could just talk about stuff like that because like your favorite, like you should know you should just know your favorite movie like the back of your hand and like why it's so fucking good. So I feel like next week we can just talk about our favorite movies and why they're so good and it's their impact on us, and we can spend a whole hour talking about that.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like a good topic. We can talk about favorite movies is a good introductory. Good introductory.
Yeah, it just kind of helps us. It kind of just helps us break down like our taste in movies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, let's just do that.
All right, cool. So next week we're talking about our favorite movies, why they're our favorite movies, and we may even have a discussion of what constitutes favorite versus best. One of my favorite topics. So
favorite versus best. Yeah. That'll make for a good one.
Yeah. So okay, guys. Well, this has been the very first episode of Matinee. We talked about the Suicide Squad this time. We will talk about more contemporary movies as well as we will do some deeper dives into past movies as well because we just started. As a singular male, podcasting is within my blood. It's my culture. So
it's in our nature.
Yeah, exactly. So we will get to the bottom of different topics each week, and we'll get to do different movies each week. It's just a play it by ear type of podcast. So
that's just what we do.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we will see you guys later.
All right, see you next week.
Control V.